Hey everyone, welcome to the newest Kolpak and Izzo podcast. North Dakota State football getting ready for a 15th consecutive quarterfinal appearance. They'll take on the Mercer University Bears out of Macon, Georgia. Winners of the SoCon conference. They'll come to Fargo for a first time for a trip to the semifinals at stake. National television audience inside the Fargo Dome for the first time. The Bison have played on ABC before, but they've always either been in Frisco or on the road. First time that they'll get a national TV audience coming up on Saturday against Mercer. I want to start with some breaking news that we had today, that the national championship games for the next 2 years, 25 and 26 seasons, Jeffrey, are going to Nashville, Tennessee. With the renovations going on to Toyota Stadium, the FCS Playoff Committee decided to move to Nashville for those 2 years.
Seems like a place that is similar to Frisco, I think, in a sort of a destination place. I mean, I know Frisco isn't the destination, but Dallas can be.
Yep.
Nashville obviously has been really, the last 10, 15 years, the downtown. I've never been, but apparently
we're going. We might be going twice next year.
Yes,
the Bison play in Nashville in September against Tennessee State, and if they're any good, they might be going back there next January.
Well, and I think this is the state of the FCS. There's probably 4 or 5 teams again next year. I don't know. I don't know how this will ever change. If FBS comes calling, which apparently it will not.
And that can lead to our next topic here, but
it will not. And so I just don't know how this will ever change as far as the subdivision. If Mercer's trying to grow its program,
the team we saw last week can help. Abilene is the
they
team
had some athletes
that can. And you heard Tim Polisic mention that in his press conference, that FCS is going to need these teams to invest. And you asked about it at the press conference Tuesday. They're going to need teams like this to continually invest to change what you're talking about.
Change the narrative, because the CAA is really hitting skid row. It is just...
it's donezo to me.
Yeah, those days of, the CAA, just think about those...
Always was good.
There was always 4 or 5 teams that were pretty good.
And usually in this round, we'd have 2, sometimes 3. We got 0 represented in this round.
The champ got beat by Lehigh.
Yep. So that's to change the perpetual, hey, it's the same teams. We need an Abilene. We need Tarleton. I think they're in the same boat. We need Mercer. We need schools like that to say, okay, we made it this far. We can't just have it be a blip. Sanford was a blip. They haven't been good the last 2 years. We need these kind of teams to invest to change it. I don't know if they're going to routinely compete with the big boys in the Valley and the Big Sky, but that's what they're aiming for.
I talked with Jim Cole, the Mercer athletic director, earlier this week. A story it's on Informcom on Thursday morning. It was posted that he was a pitching coach for the Madison Black Wolf back in the late 90s. Wow. So he's been to Fargo. He was here for, he told me, like Pregnant Woman's Day or something at the ballpark.
For the Red Hawks?
Yeah.
No kidding.
So anyway, win against Simonik and all those days.
That's outrageous.
It's good. But he goes, when I go places, I want to see, okay, what do we need to do? Like when he went to South Dakota State last year for the second round, I think he walked around and said, okay, what can we take from this? And that's his plan this weekend, is to walk around Fargo and NDSU campus and say, okay, what do we need? And I guess what you see in both instances with South Dakota State and North Dakota State are incredible practice facilities.
Yep.
It was raining earlier this week, Monday, Tuesday, and maybe even Wednesday in Macon, Georgia. So they had to prepare in the rain. And he goes, that's not always
not ideal.
What I wanted to do.
Especially if you want to consistently play in later in the year. The weather in the South does tend to get kind of nasty when you get into November and December.
And the same Montana State's building an indoor stadium, indoor practice facility. I think Montana still is sitting there and
toying with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that is, and John Stiegelmeier told us that at a pregame show when we were at Dana Dykhouse Stadium a few years ago, pointing at the indoor facility, saying that is more important than his new stadium. Yep. And so that's where you have to go. That's where I see investment. Like Youngstown State, when its indoor facility, now a long time ago, but the Penguins invested in football and they became pretty good. And I don't know really what's happened lately, but
got ravaged with the portal.
But that's what you look at. UND's got nice indoor facilities.
Yep.
They should be good.
I think they're going to be okay with Eric Schmidt now taking over. I have two other things I want to get to before we actually chat about the football game. Obviously, the news that came out late Tuesday night that the Mountain West Conference and Northern Illinois look like they're going to be married together. There's a board of trustees meeting at Northern Illinois' campus, Jeff, on Thursday. I think we could put two and two together and figure what's out with that. Also, late reporting on this, that the Horizon League commissioner was on campus in DeKalb yesterday. So you maybe even put
three and three together
to say, okay, if Northern Illinois is going to move its football operations to the Mountain West, the Horizon is a basketball league. Most of those schools do not even play or sponsor football, that Northern goes there. But the point to bring it back here would mean that North Dakota State's chances of the Mountain West are over.
Yep, it's over. So
the question I have
kind of bums me out.
There's no doubt that story floated to McMurphy to get Northern Illinois back to the table. If interest was truly waning, as Brett reported, was it, hey, the presidents, as Mike reported, wanted an FBS school, and Northern never said no. Maybe, hey, we've got another school out there. You better come back to us.
I would guess at the least it was meant to, hey, what are you going to do?
Yeah. We need an answer.
Yeah.
One way or the other. We need to know what's going on. But it appears from Mike's diligent reporting on this that they were the Mountain West presidents, Jeff, were sold on an FBS school. I don't think they ever wanted an FCS one.
I was told by a source out west a couple of weeks ago that he didn't believe that NDSU would make it in this round, but he believes there's going to be another round next year.
Well, we're going to do this dance for however long you want to keep doing it. People should know the Pac-12 isn't done with what they want to do.
What if UNLV separates its allegiance with Nevada?
They're not going anywhere. They signed a 10-year agreement with the Mountain West. UNLV's not going. Pac-12 is going to go and make a move at Memphis, and then the Americans open again, and then it's going to your source's point, will start the dominoes again of who's going to move where. Conference USA, if it were to come about, I'm not sticking my nose up in the air at them. I would go, hey, if you're interested, we would take them in a heartbeat if you want for a football only invite.
Because eventually, I think it would shake out, but you got to have that letter B. You have the F and the S. You need that B.
Yep. Especially when you look at the playoff bracket that just got unveiled, and you have a Boise State in there. That's the dream of, until they change it, to guarantee a group of 5 team, the highest ranked group of 5 gets a chance to be in it. That's what you're shooting for. That's what you have, maybe that magical year where you get a chance to be ranked as high as possible and get into and the tournament's going to expand. I don't think anybody's under any misconceptions. They're going to go from 12 to either 14 or 16 in the next 2 years when they open it back up in 2026. I think but I will put probably the caution on that. They're not going to open it up, Jeff, to another group of 5. They're going to, hey, we want another SEC or a Big Ten team to get into the tournament.
No question.
But that to me,
with Alabama's whining this year,
that to me is the next possible road. I don't doubt what your source is telling you. I don't know where the musical chairs stop on that and what schools are left to ping pong. The Pac-12 definitely, we know they need one more before they're done, and that'll come.
I'm not convinced Memphis is going that way. They already denied them.
They already said no, but the AD said, come back with a better offer and then I'll listen. So make me an offer I can't refuse, basically. Godfather ways on that. I would imagine once we get past the first of the year that this will cook up again with those schools. But for Bison fans that were hoping for that, I can imagine, and that's going to lead to the malaise we saw in the Dome crowd last week. It may not be worse this week. There's no buzz for Mercer.
No, could be.
If they get 10,000, they're probably feeling pretty good about it, knowing full well. And Polisic addressed that in the question I asked him on Tuesday, because he mentioned about the slow start, and he said we're looking ahead. There shouldn't be any of that. That Mercer is our Super Bowl. Like, the players are potentially even doing that now.
Kleiman was worried about that when he was here.
Yeah.
There were playoff games where he knew his team didn't bring it.
Right.
But they were good enough just to get by.
They certainly weren't. They were good enough. They didn't fall behind by 2 touchdowns like we saw what happened on Saturday. I mean, there was a real, I think, a danger point in that game after Cam's interception, and the Bison defense held into a field. If they score a touchdown and it's 21-3, then we're talking a whole, I really believe that. We're talking a different deal because Jackson Williams' kickoff return just totally flipped that game on its head after that.
I believe Cam is a good enough thrower that he would eventually, if they would have had to throw in all the time, I think they would have won that game.
You think so?
Yep.
Even at 21-3.
Yes.
Right. But it didn't end up happening. The defense got to stop, and then Jackson Williams did his thing, and the Bison scored 31 points in a row, and I thought salted it away, and then Abilene got a little something going. So that's why I'm interested to see what happens here. I think this will be a different mindset football team that comes out Saturday afternoon at the Dome.
Well, if they're taking anything from their head coach, It should be.
I mean, he was
a little fired up on Tuesday.
He was fired up on that particular answer. There's no particular doubt about that for this game. They will have a couple of changes, specifically offensive line. Jake Rock's career is over, which is difficult for a guy that waited 6 years to play. He's been the guy, started all up to this game, game 13 games at right guard. And now it looks like it could be a mixture of guys. And I know coaches will tell you they don't care who starts. They want to know who finishes the game. That it could be the redshirt freshman Bo Johnson goes to right tackle and Mason Miller goes to right guard. Because remember, Miller played guard last year after he got dinged up.
Yeah, well, I guess it's about matchups and what they feel on the defensive line. So that hasn't been said. I think Jack Lewinsky's
in the mix
could be part of that.
Yep, he played left guard when Griffin Empey got hurt earlier this year. He started 2 games there against Murray and Northern Iowa, if I remember correctly. So that's the first real change that they've had on that offensive line, which we hammered on that all offseason. They've been lights out. I think they've been really, really good for a group that had a couple new pieces coming in.
Yeah, and I just, it starts with Gray Zabel. You have your NFL draft pick sitting there, and so that's a pretty good place to start.
No doubt about that. What stands out to you when you're looking at Mercer and this team that we're going to see on Saturday?
This is the team that was picked finish fourth in the Southern Conference. Lost its head coach in January, and that really kind of torqued the AD off to lose him in January. Caught him by surprise.
Went to Navy
as a coordinator.
Yeah. Yep.
Which, again, surprising. But, give the new guy credit for coming in. And
Mike Jacobs is a good guy. Calming the show.
He calmed the waters.
He's a Lenore Ryan guy, same spot that Mike Houston came from before he got before he got the James Madison gig.
Yep, and so he's calmed the waters. He kept the players, much like Tim Paulsik. He kept his players. Mercer is a program that doesn't hit the portal very often. I mean, most of their team is high school developed. Yep. And it started when they reinstituted football in 2013. Their first team, they recruited for 2 years. Every player except 4 was either freshman or redshirt freshman. But again, that was before the portal.
Right.
You might have added more players now. But it was an expansion franchise. And they won 10 games in being a Pioneer League member. Then the SoCon came. They weren't planning on doing scholarship football. They were going to be in the Pioneer with all the rest of those fellow privates. Georgia Southern goes FBS. There's an opening in Georgia. The SoCon wanted somebody in Georgia, and Mercer took the bait and said, okay, we'll start scholarship football. Now, 500 years for a while. Took a while to get up to snuff. But in the last 2-3 years, they've really a good defense, I think, has led the way.
Yep. They made the playoffs last year. They beat Gardner Webb. Our guy Trey Lamb was the coach at Gardner Webb. They beat them last year, then lost to South Dakota State, as Jeff mentioned, in the second round. Now they got a bye. They won the league. They beat Rhode Island, and now they've made the furthest they've ever had as a quarterfinalist this season.
Talked to one of their big boosters, a guy named Charlie Cantrell, a big auto guy down there who was part of the starting it all up. And, he knows what it needs. They're trying to get Alston payments. They're doing it as much as they can. They're trying to toy with NIL. They're doing it as much as they can. Certainly probably not at the level at NDSU, but at least they're giving it a shot here.
Well, I was talking with Coach Jacobs about this because this goes back to the conversation, the story you wrote last week of there's 8 Division I football programs in the state of Georgia. And obviously everybody knows the big one, and they certainly know Georgia Tech. Now Kennesaw is an FBS program. Georgia State is in there. And Mercer, I know there's the level of players, but how do you carve out your own niche? And they told me they sell that academically. They've got a great engineering school there, but this is something we really value, the student part of the student athlete of trying to get athletes to come to their school.
Yeah, and you can't do that philosophy hitting the portal all the time. So and good for them for making that work. It's sort of old school. It's sort of refreshing.
No, right. And now there's another new school. West Georgia just moved up to Division I that's in the state. I will tell you, their play-by-play guy told me on Hot Mic that the basketball win they had against Duke in 2014, 10 years later, they're still seeing the benefits of that. They're still getting applications to come in because of that exposure they had on CBS. Got it.
Oh, the interesting front porch concept that Joe Chapman brought to the table in 2001.
And they're hoping they play well on Saturday on ABC, that can help get people there. I know it's old hat for the Bison. They've been on national television too many times to count. Mercer hasn't. This is a huge opportunity for them to get some exposure for their program.
The Bison will get their best shot.
Yes.
There's no question about that. Like, they got Abilene's best shot.
No doubt.
When Abilene Christian, at 4th and 13 in its own territory, fakes a punt, you're like going for it.
They're going, hey, we didn't, as Keith Patterson said, we didn't come up here to lose. We came up here to just play.
We came here to play close.
Yeah, we came up here to win the football game, and I'll give them the nod on that. I'm intrigued to see. Offensively, they may be challenged there. I think defensively, they're pretty good. TJ Moore's fantastic. Got 7 picks. It's going to be something to keep an eye on for Cam Miller throwing the football.
It'll be interesting if the Bison
Saturday.
just go right. I thought Tim's hinted that they should have gone to the throwing game earlier
against Abilene.
So I wonder if they're going to do that off the bat here. Alabama ran for not a whole lot. They threw for 300 and some.
No.
When Mercer lost to Samford 55-35, Samford ran for 68 yards but threw for like 349.
Correct.
So I wonder if that's the blueprint. And those are 2 sound defeats.
Yep. And that's something I'd be interested in, especially with the Bison weapons the way they are.
Do they just come out throwing?
Maybe. And that's something that we saw. They changed it up late in that game against South Dakota State. And that resulted in the game-winning drive. They moved down the field, and Bison found the end zone. I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they're going to go.
If Mercer's just stacking the line of scrimmage,
why wouldn't you?
And they're they're good at stopping the run.
Yep.
Why would you keep throwing Marty Brown in there for 2 yards?
2 yards, right. Why are you going to keep bashing your head against the wall? That wouldn't make any sense to me.
When you got Bryce Lance, who has 55 receptions, the most since Darius Shepard with NDSU, that was 2017.
Yeah. Got 11 touchdowns.
One-on-one on the outside.
Right.
Raja one-on-one.
I wouldn't stop doing that. Defensively for the Bison, we'll see if Luke Wirtz is able to go. He did not play last week. Neither did Austin Altapeter. They have 5 healthy linebackers. That's enough.
Yes, it's enough. Yes.
I don't know about next week if they're able to win and expect to. I don't know. Wirtz had his best game as a Bison against the Jackrabbits. So if they're pointing in a direction where, hey, if we can save him and win, then maybe they get Wirtz back.
I'll cross that talking point when we get to it.
You say it's enough. I think it's okay for this week, but I think they're going to need some help there going forward.
Like Grant Olson never came off the field when he played. Carlton Littlejohn never came off the field.
But
Jackson,
Jackson Hankey didn't come off.
Jackson Hankey never came off the field.
No. All right. I'm just telling you. I think they need some
Travis
help there.
Beck never came off the field. Do you need more Nick DeLuca?
Yeah, those guys are elite players. They don't have that right now at this current spot.
Yeah.
That's
I'm just saying
I'm telling right now what they have at that spot.
Well, it's not like the backups are elite then either. So
Wirtz and Kubitz never separated themselves here for 5 years.
Are you saying there's a fatigue factor then?
I would think at some point you have to. We said this. Have to separate yourself. That didn't happen between those two. And if he's just as good as Kubitz in certain spots, then they're missing that out there. And the special teams part can't be ignored either.
Wirtz is good. Wirtz is good there.
They're getting hurt on that with the amount of injuries they've had. Donovan Woolen has played. You mentioned he's not a freshman anymore at this point of the season. Maybe he gets more of a run in a game. Enoch's played great. Simamana, even though he said it in the post game, he didn't think he had a particular very good game. He made a couple of
10 tackles last week.
He made a couple of splash plays. He's been really good. Kopp obviously had his best game as a Bison. No doubt about it. But I think they're going to need some more help there the further they go.
Okay.
Offenses are going to get only better if they advance beyond this round for whoever lays in wait. If somehow the Word wins, Zach Calzada's a great quarterback. And obviously the Jackrabbits bring a ton to the table.
It's going to be 27 degrees at kickoff at 11 a.m.
in Brookings on Saturday. Yep. That's not great for the Word.
That's not good for the Texas team.
That's not great for the Word there. I will say, quick word on special teams before we move on to the other games this weekend. That was something I thought over the last couple of years NDSU was just okay at. They have been elite at special teams. Joe Bishoner needs more credit than maybe we've given him, Jeff. I thought the Bison special teams have been really good this year.
Except I didn't like that Poochie kind of kickoff against Abilene.
No, and they were trying something specific.
Yeah, I didn't, and we asked him about that. I just disagreed with that. You got a guy that can boot in the end zone.
And I imagine you're going to see Eli Ozick do that, but Crosa set every record now imaginable as the kicker. Steindorf's had a good year. Caleb Bowers as the long snapper has been good. Jackson Williams goes without saying of what he's done in the return game. I think Bison special teams has been really, really good this year.
Well, Eli Ozick will be the kicker next year. You hope Jackson Williams
hope
stays
he's there for next year. Yep. That's kind of the world we live in right now. If I were to say here, there's 3 Big Sky, 3 Valley, a Southland, and a SoCon team. That's the remaining field.
No surprise. Oh, no, not at all. Yes. It's about right.
So we have a couple of rematches. Obviously, the Word played South Dakota State earlier this season. It was a 45-24 Jackrabbit win. That was the second week of the year.
The Word played okay in the first half. They were kind of they hung with them for a little bit.
It was down a touchdown going to the fourth quarter. It was 31-24 in the second half in that game. And then SDSU put the hammer down with a couple touchdowns to
But I would expect the hammer would get down a little earlier this time around.
So Idaho and Montana State is a rematch as well. Now, the only difference with this is Idaho has its starting quarterback back. They did not for that game in Bozeman in October. Does that change anything for you?
I just don't think Idaho has enough to hang with Montana State.
Okay.
Not this year. Not at home.
Montana State at home is awfully darn good.
They're good in December at home, too.
Have you got the temperature
Except
check?
in extra points.
Wow. Have you got the temperature check in Bozeman yet?
Yeah, it was like high 20s, low 30s.
Really? That's pretty good for a night game. Last thing. Cole Wisniewski's going to Texas Tech.
Yeah, good for him.
Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know.
What are you so bitter about?
I'm just... I feel bad for the training staff that worked so hard with him.
I get it.
That's my only beef.
Well, here's my thought on this, and I just shed some. The way it came together, Jeff, it certainly seems like that this may have been predestined or arranged. That either Wisniewski's people, his agent, was talking with Texas Tech's collective, because this is similar to Marquis Siegel in my mind. Siegel went in, and about 10 days later, K-State offered and got a commitment. This is the difference between going in and have an idea rather than just going in and hoping something will work out. There's a clear difference. We've seen that with some Bison that have done.
So you're saying you believe these talks have been going on for a while?
I don't know that for a fact, but I can probably say tampering was involved here. Yeah, I would with this expediency of it. Come on, I mean that we got to put.
Mark Farley came out last in the media. What the conference call?
It was the preseason media call.
Media day conference call.
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah, my guys get tampered."
Yep.
Just flat out said it. And then Southern Utah of all teams gets busted for tampering. Yeah. Southern Utah.
Yes. They weren't as good as others on not covering up their tracks on trying to do that. But that to me, this goes something you've talked about just willy-nilly going in and hoping for an offer as opposed to having a targeted idea. Because I think if Wisniewski or Zabel would have gone in last year, it would have been quick too. I think there would have been predestined ideas of where they were going to go. That's the difference for some guys that say, well, I'm not playing enough, and this may happen. So far as we sit here on Thursday morning, the guys that have gone in haven't played. They weren't going to.
And good for them. Find another place.
They weren't going to play here.
Good for them. And there's a few others that should.
Probably will.
Yep.
It's the ones that, like a DJ Hart that went in and did it. I'll name names on this that have gone in over the last couple of years and hope for. Like Dom Jones did that. That Courtney Eubanks did that. Kobe Johnson thought he was a higher level player than he was. That Did it work out? I don't know. It's hard to say.
Well, they're in search of bigger collective money, and as far as I know, they didn't get it.
Eli Green is the other one that comes up, and I know we talked about that. Eli has 7 receptions on the season at Iowa State. And the only thing I'll say, and I think you brought this up, know your roster. If you're going to go do that and go somewhere, you best know what you have in front of you. Iowa State had 2 all-conference wide receivers coming back for 2024. Okay, you might got a nice payday out of it.
What did Tyler Roll tell him? That they're going to throw to 3?
I don't know. But that's the cautionary side of this, And does the timing stink on it? Sure. And I don't discount what you're talking about either. The hard feelings are certainly there, but in a day and age of literally Brock Spack's season just got done 3 days ago, and his best offensive lineman now is going to Texas Tech.
Hey, you're the one 7 years ago that wanted this.
I do want it. I'm not complaining about it, but I'm just telling you, for people that are like, how did this happen? This is how. Mm-hmm. It happens all the time. So, and it's probably not done. I would imagine there's probably going to be some more. We'll see. Keeping an eye on that. The window is open till December the 28th, and then opens up again at the middle of April for its second time for another 10 days there. A reminder, Bison Game Day is live, 10 a.m. inside the Dome. Myself, Jeff, Kyle Emanuel, Sam Getzinger get you ready for NDSU and Mercer. And yes, the game is on WDAY this week. Bison and the Bears at 2:30, a spot in the semifinals at stake. I'll make a bold prediction. If the Bison win, they're playing the 11 a.m. game a week from Saturday in the semifinals.
Our pregame show should be on national TV, too.
Well, it's nationally on the internet. Happen. There you go. It's worldwide on the internet, so there you go.
Big in Belgium, I heard.
We're huge everywhere. For Jeff Kolpak, I'm Dom Izzo. Thanks for listening to the Kolpak and Izzo podcast.